Okay, I'm going to talk about race reparations and why they're bad. So, when you create an economic policy that only treats the economic disparity of within one race, okay, so that's what a race reparation does, right? So, if we give money to only black people and we exclude poor white and Hispanic people from that economic policy, it creates the perception that you're blaming the white people for the economic disparity that was created by slaveholders 2 centuries ago. This isn't fair, right? It creates the perception that you're blaming those people for the actions that were 2 centuries out of their control. The lack of fairness here is going to drive more racism, okay? So it's like a pendulum swing, right? If we create these race reparations, what it does is it swings the racism pendulum in the other direction, okay? That's not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to take this pendulum that is currently swinging in one direction, and we want to ease it back to the center and leave it at the center. We don't want it to swing back in the other direction, because that's just going to create more racial division, okay? So if we look at these black communities, okay, they're not disproportionately poor because they're black. They're disproportionately poor because their ancestors were slaves 200 years ago, and what that means for today is that generational wealth, it never reached an equilibrium between white and black people. So if we treat people differently based on the color of their skin, that's racism, right? It is. And the thing is these black communities, they are treated differently by police, okay? There is some systematic racism that's still, again, in the same way that generational wealth doesn't disappear if you don't fix the source of the problem, the systematic racism won't either. So but why is there racism today? Well, the truth is that black communities commit more crime than white communities, okay? And we don't want to frame those higher crime rates as a function of race. We want to frame them as a function of income, okay? That's what they are. When you are not financially secure, you have to commit crimes to make a living, okay, just to stay alive. That's how it works, okay? The crime is a function of income. So the truth is, the real solution we want here is class reparations, or you could just call it good old wealth redistribution. We don't want to favor one race with this wealth redistribution. We want it to be means tested across all races. And because black people are disproportionately poor, that means that means tested economic policy will favor black people, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. That's exactly what we want. We just don't want to treat one race differently because because of the color of their skin. That is racism, okay? Again, what that does is it swings the pendulum back in the other direction, and it just keeps the division going. As I said, we want to ease that pendulum back to the center and stop it right on the middle. That's the goal here. So in that light, affirmative action is racist policy too. Okay, we don't want to treat one race special. We want to treat poor people special. Okay, we want to help the poor people. We want to reduce the economic disparity across the board. Okay, and again, if Hispanic communities and black communities are disproportionately poor, then they get disproportionate economic support. So we need to frame this as a class war. It's not a race war. If we frame it as a race war, then we come up with bad policies that manifest as race reparations, and we keep the race war going. Okay? Now, we can also look at a movement like Black Lives Matter, and a movement like that can still have power, okay? We do want to have a social movement that makes that brings to light this systematic racism, okay? So it's not all lives matter. Yes, that's true. Obviously, all lives matter, but black communities are treated with they're victims of this systematic racism. So a movement like Black Lives Matter is helpful in bringing that to light. So, but what we don't want is we don't want a Black Lives Matter movement to seek government policies, okay, that treat black people differently than white people, okay? Again, any policy coming from the government, any economic policy needs to treat all races equally. That doesn't mean that Black Lives Matter can't raise money on their own and invest them in these black communities. That's great, okay? I'm all for that. And in fact, we need more of that. We just cannot have Black Lives Matter creating government policies that treat people differently based on race, because the government policy, what happens is the media attaches onto it, and then they create this perception that we're treating people differently based on the color of their skin. We don't want that, okay? That, again, creates more racial division. We need to increase class consciousness, okay? It's a class war. It's not a race war, okay? All of this illusion that black people are different than white people is all created by an income disparity, okay? That's it. It's that simple. So give that a little thought. Thanks for watching.